Obviously, I've been here a number of times over the past few weeks, and it was bad. It was really bad. But the difference is it's night and day. We have further to go, as the city manager said, but congratulations on the great success that you've made. First, to the city manager, who's done a really fantastic job through this. You know, they don't teach you about this in city manager school. They don't have a course that says, you know, this is what it's going to look like when you're in the middle of a crisis and a hurricane and a flood. And the city manager really did a masterful job. So let's give him a round of applause. Your county executive has been dealing with all sorts of difficult issues, and we've been going back and forth, but this situation was one that no one contemplated, and frankly no leader is prepared for. And it's really a test of the moment. It's a book by a fellow named Michael Useem on the leadership moment that said leaders either rise to the occasion or they don't when presented with a crisis. And the county executive was presented with a crisis, and he rose to the occasion. And his leadership, his model, inspired local officials all across the county. He was a great partner for me, County Executive Ed Mangano. It's a pleasure to be with you. And you heard from Jerry Howard, who runs the State Emergency Management Office and Operation. I believe Jerry is the best emergency management professional in the country. I've only been in this job a couple of years, a little short of a couple of years. And when I started, I knew exactly who I wanted to be the emergency management director, because Jerry's reputation preceded him. He's been all across the country, he's been all across the globe, working on emergency preparedness, and we had the right man at the helm on the stage, Jerry Howard. It's a pleasure to be with you. And to the first responders who were here, we saw acts of heroism and selflessness that were more than anyone had a right to expect. People who put themselves in danger's way, left their own homes, left their own families to serve others. It was really the essence of public service. It's an honor, once again, to be with all of you. This is a number of phases to this situation that we're going to go through, because it's a complex social, personal, economic, governmental situation that we're working through. And the first phase was the emergency phase, and that was the emergency response. People rising to the occasion, first responders rising to the occasion, leaders rising to the occasion, volunteers, citizens, to stabilize the situation. And that was done magnificently well. Next phase is short-term reconstruction, getting things up and running, getting the lights on, getting the sand out of the streets and out of the homes, getting water running, etc., normal municipal services, and we've been through that phase. And now we're going to the third phase, which is basically longer-term reconstruction. And I spent some time driving through the neighborhoods and looking at some of the stores, and the facades, everything looks okay on the outside, but there's a lot of reconstruction to do on the inside. And a lot of homes don't look okay. They're going to have to be rebuilt, and this is now a longer-term reconstruction. And the governments are now going back to a reconstruction mode. They responded in the emergency, they did what they had to do, the first responders did what they had to do, but now the governments have to stabilize. And a big part of this now is going to come down to the financial cost of the storm and the financial resources necessary to rebuild. Rebuilding is expensive. Don't kid yourself. It is expensive to rebuild a house. It is expensive to rebuild a business. It is expensive to rebuild a road. It is expensive to pay for the costs of all the emergency services that we spend. So the economics of this situation are very important. When I saw the county executive, as I was walking in, put out his hand, he said, "Governor, as always, good to see you. How much is the check for?" Right? And I smiled, because sometimes it is about the money. And the finances are very important here. Who's going to pay the bill? Who's going to pay to rebuild the houses? Who's going to pay the municipal bill? Who's going to pay for the businesses? Who's going to pay? And that's what we're now working on together. And our position is that we need the federal government to step up and to help pay this bill. Why? Well, first of all, it makes sense. And this is what the federal government has done time and time again. Because think about it. One state, one region has a natural disaster. They're now hurt. They're at a disability. To ask that state or region, well, now you finance your own reconstruction, would add insult to injury and actually make the situation worse. When a region goes through a crisis like this, the economy suffers. To say, not only do you have to rebuild, but you're going to have to pay the bill while your businesses are closed and your people aren't paying taxes, it would make it worse for the region, it would make the comeback slower, and that would hurt everyone. So what we have done repeatedly is we passed what's called supplemental appropriations, because everything has to have a fancy term in Washington, but Congress appropriates additional money for regions that are hurt by a storm. And this happens more often than not. I used to be in the federal government under the Clinton administration, and we did many, many supplemental appropriations at that time. Floods, hurricanes, Midwest floods, Hurricane Andrew in Florida, LA earthquakes, and the Congress would appropriate money, and that money would help that region rebuild. We're saying that this is the second most expensive storm, second to Katrina, in modern political history, New Orleans, Louisiana, and we need federal assistance. And we put in a request to the White House, which then put in a bill for the Senate and the House to consider, asking for $60 billion between New York and New Jersey, primarily, to rebuild. Of the $60 billion, New York is a little bit more than half, so we're at about $32 billion. I don't have the $32 billion to spend to finance the reconstruction. The state itself starts with actually a deficit. We have about $1 billion deficit. And $30 billion, just to put this in scale, it's about 1/3 of the entire state budget. We don't have that kind of financing. We would have to do a massive tax increase if we had to pay that bill ourselves. We do a massive tax increase now, it's the last thing this state needs. We've been doing the exact opposite. I worked like heck for the past 2 years to keep taxes down, and as a matter of fact, cut taxes, because I believe that's what's in the best interest of this state. I'm not about to raise taxes. So we need help from the federal government, and we need it now. I need, the reason these gentlemen were so eager for the finances, they have a hole now that they have to fill. The city manager has to pay a payroll this week. They need money now. So we're saying to Congress, we need you to vote. We need you to vote now. And we need that funding. They're about to go home for end-of-year break, Christmas break. We want them to act before the Christmas break. And our message to Washington is exactly what the city manager said, exactly what the county executive said. Put the politics aside and do what is in the best interest of the people. I don't care if you're a Democrat, I don't care if you're a Republican. This is not about politics. I don't care what the arguments are with the White House, what else is going on. Vote to pass this supplemental appropriation. Let the leaders in government be as smart as the people of this country. And you all have seen it. You saw people from all across the country show up here in Long Beach, show up in communities all across the state when they were affected by the storm, and Americans knew we needed help, and they showed up to help. It's just an American instinct. It's an American value. It's what community in this country are all about. Let the politicians be as smart as the people. Vote and pass the supplemental so we can rebuild, which is good for this state and this region, and good for the nation. Thank you, and it's a pleasure to be with you. Any questions from the press? Any tough questions will be fielded by the city manager, I want you to know, because he says you can't stump him. That's what he said.
Would you say that the money you've announced today is a good first step, and the Monday will really be the rest of the pie as far as what we need here and in New Jersey?
Well, this is a first step, yes. And this is literally financing, so the county executive used the word liquidity, which is right. They have to pay bills now, their accounts are depleted, and this will help replenish their accounts short term. But this is a long-term reconstruction. It's literally $32 billion is the need for the state of New York in this supplemental. and we need that before the end of the year.
Governor, what can citizens of New York do, citizens of Long Island, Long Beach do, to try to influence Congress to move on this?
Look, you know, politicians listen to the people. I know it sounds simple and something that you would learn in an early civics class in high school. It's also profoundly true. When we get into trouble in this country, or even in this state, it's when people don't speak up. And when the politicians lose connection with the people. We have Congress people, we have senators, they should make their voice heard and say, this is important, we get it, we need the help, and we need Congress to act. You know, they have all these great reasons why they have all these great political reasons why they can't act and government can't function. People just strip through all the politics. You know, for people it's very simple. Either you're delivering for me or you're not, right? And I think they should call their representatives and make their voice heard and let them know this is important and that they're going to remember. Okay?
I'm just curious as to what role the county and the city has had as well in terms of lobbying Congress or the local Long Island delegation to approve this FEMA.
Yes. We've had 2 meetings with our congressional leaders, our senators, and our Congress leaders here in the state. Governor Cuomo put them together where we had an opportunity to express the very real needs of our citizens, provide concrete examples, and go over all the figures in the request. Our local officials here have been very receptive and supportive. They have expressed concern with the bill in Congress, and that is alarming. And we've offered our support, we've offered our knowledge, we've offered concrete examples, we've offered testimony, and we're lobbying our very strongly to have this bill passed.
Sure. I would just say we're in touch with our representatives almost every day right now, and sometimes many times a day, and they get it, and we need them to go and fight on our behalf, and they are, and we appreciate that. What we need is those in Washington to step up and actually really get something done, as the governor said.
Okay. All right. Thank you all very much. Thank you.